Howdy and welcome, you are watching another Friday Ace of Spades website review, and I am Nom. Today I'm going to tell you about Papercuts and how to fix them. To illustrate the principle, I'm going to be using a website which I've been wanting to review for some time now because it's such a curious mix of good and bad, which is bitfoundry.ca. And of course we'll be going through the Frodo conversion rate checklist, first reaction, orientation, desirability, and offers, not forgetting that the Odo elements are the important ones, and that attention equals contrast plus iPath, which will become important in a minute. Let's dive right in. First reaction, how does the site make me feel? The site makes me feel pretty good. I mean, come on, it's a very well-designed site. The actual visual style of the site is, I would say, outstanding. You may disagree, you may think that it's just good, but I'm sure that you wouldn't think it was bad. It's definitely a professionally designed site. It's clearly a site which has been put together by someone who knows what they're doing in terms of making something that looks attractive. Orientation. Am I in the right place? Okay. Here we run into some problems. We've got the standard, masthead and so on, Bitfoundry, which says hand-forged code underneath. Now, I understand the concept of metaphor, so hand-forged isn't really a problem. The question is, what does hand-forged code mean to the average person visiting the site? It's not clear to me that a prospect is going to see A, the meaning behind hand-forged code, and B, more importantly, the value of hand-forged code in general. Specifically, prospects don't necessarily relate web design, which is what this is all about, handcrafted web design, with coding. They don't see those as the same thing. They think of coding as programming and web design as things to do with visual effects and layout on a website. However, we've got another issue, which is this here, sort of crunched between the huge headline, which I'll talk about in a second, and the rotating images. We've got a tagline, which is Bitfoundry is a Kawarthas-based web studio run by James Beardmore. We craft code interfaces that make people want to know you better. That's a really good tagline, but why isn't it up here where people are going to expect to see it? Probably right about here, underneath the logo type. I don't know. Otherwise, other elements involved in orientation, typically navigation is a problem, but in this case it is not. Everything is extremely clear. Work, services, about, blog, shop, and contact are all very standard nomenclature, and no one is going to be confused by that, so that's good. Let's move on to desirability. Do I believe I'll gain more than I invest? Well, first element of desirability is the headline. Turn your browsers into your customers. I use a very similar headline on my website, attentionthievery.info, so I certainly can't complain about the headline. I think that it's quite a good one. However, we now have some issues. Big old image here keeps on moving about, so that's quite distracting. I've talked about how attention equals contrast plus iPath. Well, one of the huge contrast-grabbing things that you can do is to make things move. Movement creates enormous contrast, so even if the image doesn't stand out by itself, once it changes, then it will grab your visitor's attention. The problem is that you've moved from the headline into the image, but there's no copy coming in between except for the tagline, which should be further up anyway, and it's probably not going to get read in that position. So all we've got here is an image, which you would think could be good, because I mean it's obviously a portfolio and so on. But the difficulty is that images don't interpret themselves. Images are best when either they are above a headline because they're visually dominant and will then tease your prospect into your headline and then onto your body copy, or when they come after your body copy, which has explained the meaning of the image before the prospect gets to it. There's also a difficulty in that the additional element that people look for to explain an image is a caption, and, well, there are no captions. Finally, we get to the body copy, which is very short. And it says your audience is picky, everyone has a website now, your audience is more educated and spoiled for choice than ever before. If your website is going to succeed, it needs to exude clarity and authenticity with every last pixel honed to serve a purpose. This is why everything we create is a solution to a well-researched problem carefully designed to give you an edge over the competition. Now that's quite good copy. I think it states the problem that prospects face quite clearly and succinctly, or at least one of the problems, and the solution that is offered is clear. The difficulty is that because this, again, is kind of sandwiched in between these two very strong visual elements, the image on the one hand and these big bright orange logos, icons on the other, it's probably not going to get read, and even worse, it's indented from the left-hand margin, which sets it out as something other than body copy. It sets it out perhaps as some kind of aside or sidebar or call-out, rather than as the actual body copy, which people expect to be aligned along the left-hand margin. Alright, let's move on to offers. Do my goals match the available options? Well, the available options here, there is really only one call to action. I mean, there are lots of links that you can click on, but the only call to action here is the Let's Talk call to action. Do you want to make a lasting impression with your website? Presumably the answer is yes, and let's talk. Now, I've mentioned this many times before, but most prospects arriving on a website are not ready to invest anything more than a small amount of time and effort and emotional energy until they have learned a great deal more about what you're offering than is available on the homepage. So Let's Talk is very premature. You don't want to ask your prospects to talk when they still want to find out more about you. It's not wrong to have a call to action saying Let's Talk, because, for example, if you can keep getting prospects to come back to your homepage, then it makes sense for them to click on that icon, that call to action. But you need to have some other call to action for prospects who've only come here once before, or prospects who haven't come here at all, prospects who are looking for more information before they want to talk to you, and that option hasn't been given to them here. So those are the problems with the website. It's a curious combination of greatness and mediocrity. And I say that in the kindest of ways, as always. There are wonderful images which demonstrate their skills. There is an excellent headline. There's a clear tagline. There's good body copy. And there is a good call to action, but the call to action needs an alternative somewhere, something like learn more about us. The body copy needs to be set on the left-hand margin above the image. The tagline needs to be here. And, well, that's the main stuff, really. The order of the elements has been presented such that none of them are nearly as effective as they should be. So you've got a great number of good elements and kind of this paper cut effect going on, where each of them is being slowly whittled down by the other so that none of them are really working the way they ought to. So, what can you take away from this for your own website? Well, firstly, the tagline goes at the top. You need a tagline. If you don't have a tagline, you need to look at what I'm about to mention in a couple of minutes. Secondly, images go above the headline if they're going to demonstrate, or below the body copy if they're going to illustrate. Thirdly, body copy goes after the headline on the left margin, because when you read the headline, the purpose of the headline is to get you into the copy. That is its only purpose. And if it isn't getting you into the copy, or if the copy isn't visible to be getting you into, then you've got a problem. And finally, calls to action start with verbs and come in pairs. I actually forgot to mention the verb issue here. Let's talk. That, well, it's not a terrible call to action, but talk should come first. So when you give someone a call to action, you want it to be action-oriented. So saying, talk to us now, for example, would be a better call to action. So make your calls to action verb-laden, verb beginning with, and also make sure that you've got at least two of them next to each other so that you've got two objectives for your prospects to fulfill, one requiring less investment than the other. Okay. For everything you need to know about this stuff, have a look at Attention Thievery 101, which is my course on how to turn visitors into customers, conversion rate optimization, increasing online sales. You can now get free online classes in the form of video lessons, much like this one. Only in many of them you will see my ugly mug. And of course you can buy the full course as well. And that will teach you all the sorts of things that I've been talking about here. And if you would like to get a $99 review for free, feel free to drop me an email. Or of course if you have any comments, questions, or if you just like to flame me, non@informationhighwayman.com. I will be back next Friday with another review. Until then, thanks for watching.